Hello children, how are you? Hope good. This is Shahab Khan and I'm back with my new video on my YouTube channel Urban Learning Way UL Way. This is my first video for class 9th ICSC and I'll start Julius Caesar from the beginning. It's obvious that when you start from the beginning, but I'm mentioning this because earlier I had made videos on Act 5 because when I started publishing the videos, board exams of class 10 were just around the corner, so I made videos accordingly. Today I'll start Scene 1 of Act 1. So we all know that this is a play drama written by William Shakespeare. It's a historical fiction. It means that the basic plot or story of the play is about real events, but events, characters, and dialects are incorporated to create dramatic effect. See, William Shakespeare wrote this play to be enacted on stage. He wrote it for a theatre-going audience. But we students of class 9, class 10th ICSC board are studying this as part of a syllabus. So what is the reason? When Shakespeare wrote it, Shakespeare wrote it to be enacted on stage. He would never have known that students in India in the 20th century, 21st century would be studying it as part of the English literature syllabus. That too 400, 500 years after he has written the book, after he has written the drama. So my point is, why are we studying this? We are studying this because it is a literary masterpiece. It is a literary masterpiece. It's a piece of classic literature. Now, what is meant by classic literature? Okay. Classic literature, it requires a very detailed explanation, but to put it very simply and so that you are able to understand, because you are beginners only basically of classic literature, it means piece of literature which stands the test of time. Now, it means that when something is written, and the ideas, values and thought expressed in that piece of writing, which is true and reflective of the times, stand the test of time, holds true even after the passage of an enormous amount of time. That is classic literature. The ideas, values and thought expressed in the literature, which is true of the times, reflective of the times when it was written, stands true, holds true even after passage of an enormous amount of time. So that is what Julius Caesar is. We are going to see when we study the text. Okay. Now coming to William Shakespeare, I'll do a separate video on Shakespeare sometime later. But before we move on to the text, just a few lines about William Shakespeare. Okay. William Shakespeare is a great poet, and he is the greatest dramatist playwright of English language. Undoubtedly the greatest playwright of English language. Okay. He was born on 23rd of April 1564 and died on 23rd April 1616. Okay, so this date, the exact date of birth is not very sure, but based on the date of baptism, he was baptized on 26th April 1564, and there are proper documents in the church where he was baptized. So the date, based on the date of baptism, this is taken as 23rd April. He died on the same day 23rd April 1616. Okay. Now his body of work includes 39 plays and 154 sonnets. Okay. Again, this number, if you search the net, it would vary at places. At some places you would find it to be 37. At other places you'd find it to be 38. But I take it as 39. Number varies at places because a few of his plays are of disputable authorship. Many of the plays, not many, a few of the plays Shakespeare wrote in collaboration with other writers of that era. He belonged to the, he lived and wrote during the Elizabethan and Jacobean era. Okay, Elizabethan era is the era when Queen Elizabeth ruled in England, and Jacobean era starts with King James I after the death of Elizabeth I. When it comes to his drama, which we are going to study, Julius Caesar, okay, he wrote tragedies, romances, comedies. Okay, he wrote many tragedies, which very famous tragedies, which include Othello, Hamlet. There's King Lear. Then there's Macbeth. Very famous tragedies. His more famous. When it comes to his drama, the tragedies are more famous than his romances and comedies. Okay, they are also very famous. Obviously, they are also great pieces of literature. But tragedies are King Lear, Othello, Hamlet, and Macbeth. These are very famous. And we can put this Julius into that category only. It's a tragedy only basically. Romances, among others, The Winter's Tale, The Tempest, many others. Comedies, As you like it, Much Ado About Nothing, I'm sure you must have heard the name of other comedies written by Shakespeare. Okay, now he's called the Bard of Avon. Bard of Avon. No, bard literally means, okay, forget about that. Bard, the meaning as we see it today, as we use it today, is a great poet. And Shakespeare was undoubtedly a great poet. His sonnets are very beautiful. Okay, so he is called the Bard of Avon. Okay, and Avon is he was born at Stratford upon Avon. The place where Shakespeare was born is Stratford upon Avon. The place where Shakespeare was born, the place where Shakespeare was born is Stratford upon Avon. Okay, Stratford upon Avon. Upon Avon. Stratford upon Avon. Okay. Now, he worked for a theatre company called the Lord Chamberlain's Men, which later became the King's Men when King James I took the company under his patronage. During his lifetime, Shakespeare's plays were performed at the theatre, which was named The Theatre. Later on, it was renovated. There were disputes with it, because of which it was ownership changed, and it later became the Globe Theatre, which is very historical because Shakespeare name is associated with the Globe Theatre. You have this Globe Theatre. It's an amphitheatre, 360-degree amphitheatre in London. Okay. It was originally, the Globe Theatre was built in 1599, but now it says people go there as tourists to watch where Shakespeare performed his plays, the Globe Theatre in London. Okay, so that's it for Shakespeare. The theatrical performance of Shakespeare plays written by Shakespeare are more than that of any other playwright of any era. The plot of the play is very simple. Brutus, a nobleman of great repute and respect in Rome, joins hands with Cassius and other senators to plot and assassinate Julius Caesar and take over the power for themselves. They want the power to be transferred from Julius Caesar to them. They are wary of the tyranny of Julius Caesar, actual or perceived, which they think is detrimental to the interests of Rome. They think that this is harmful for Rome, and that is why they plot to assassinate, and they succeed in assassinating Julius Caesar. Antony, who is a very close friend of Julius Caesar, turns the tide. He gets an opportunity, convinces the people that Julius Caesar was not a traitor. Sorry, Julius Caesar was not a tyrant. It is the people who are traitors, because Julius Caesar was not a tyrant. That means whatever he did for the benefit of Rome. Okay, he did for the benefit of common citizens, and that these people are traitors. They have killed such a good ruler, and people are convinced of what Antony tells them, and the whole of Rome is engulfed in a civil war. When the scene opens, people are celebrating Caesar's return after defeating Pompey. Okay, this was not a conquest that Julius Caesar had made and the land would be added to the Roman Empire. It was not like that. It was a civil war. Caesar earlier had formed a triumvirate, which is called the first triumvirate. About the second triumvirate, we'll learn it in the play itself. Julius Caesar had formed the first triumvirate with Pompey and Marcus Crassus. Pompey was a great Roman general. Okay, so they had formed this triumvirate to rule Rome, basically to bypass the Senate and have the power in their hands. But things fell apart, and in the ensuing battle and the battle that followed, Pompey was killed, and Caesar is returning when the play begins. Okay, and some of the senators now think that because earlier there were three people who were formed as this committee which was ruling. It was the triumvirate, which was sort of a committee which was ruling Rome. Now the whole power is in the hands of one single man, and he would become a great tyrant, a great dictator. Some sort of that kind of notion they had developed about Julius Caesar, and that is why the resentment against him. Now let's move to the text. Scene 1, Rome, a street. Enter Flavius, Marulus, and certain citizens. Flavius, hence home, you idle creatures, get you home. Is this a holiday? What? Know you not? Being mechanical, you ought not walk upon a labouring day without the sign of your profession. Speak, what trade art thou? First citizen, why sir, a carpenter? Marulus, why, where is thy leather apron and thy rule? What dost thou with thy best apparel on? You, sir, what trade are you? So, Flavius and Marulus, who are two tribunes. The tribunes are elected officials of Rome. When the play opens, they enter the stage along with some common folk, which includes a carpenter and a cobbler. Shakespeare here shows that Flavius and Marulus do not like Caesar. They resent Caesar. Okay, so this is Shakespeare way of showing that nobles, officials, and bureaucrats, noblemen, officials, and bureaucrats, noblemen, officials, bureaucrats, they have a disliking for Caesar. In the beginning only, through these two tribunes, Shakespeare shows that there is a certain section of bureaucrats, officials, and noblemen who do not like Julius Caesar. Flavius calls the people, he sees people celebrating the return of Pompey. They call them lazy creatures and tells them to go home. And he tells them that this being a work day, they should not be walking around on the streets without their work clothes on. Rome was a civilized society and was run by a senate till the time this triumvirate overshadowed it. Okay, and they had a dress code also for different works. Like we have dress codes for lawyers. They have a different kind of dress. Rome in ancient times they had dress codes, and Flavius asked them why they were not wearing their work clothes on a working day. Why the people were not wearing their work clothes? Because they were celebrating Caesar's return. They were celebrating Caesar's return after defeating Pompey. So Flavius asks a common citizen what his trade was, what his profession was, and he replied that he was a carpenter. The carpenter replied that he was a carpenter. So Marulus tells where was his leather apron and ruler, and why had he put his best clothes on. Then he asks another citizen what his trade was. Second citizen, truly sir, in respect of a fine workman, I am but, as you would say, a cobbler. Marulus, but what trade art thou? Answer me directly. Second citizen, a trade, sir, that I hope I may use with a safe conscience, which is indeed, sir, a mender of bad souls. Then Marulus asks another citizen what his trade was. The citizen, who was a cobbler, replied that as compared to a skilled worksman, he was just a cobbler, as he would like to say it. Marulus gets irritated on his reply and uses a harsh tone to tell him that he should be answering the question about his profession directly. Second citizen, a trade, sir, that I hope I may use with a safe conscience, which is indeed, sir, a mender of bad souls. Marulus, what trade, thou knave, thou naughty knave, what trade? The cobbler replies that he practices a trade where there is no scope for malpractices, and that is why he is able to practice his trade with a clear conscience. Okay? And that he was a mender of bad souls. Shakespeare use of word play, soul and soul word, they sound soul and soul, though souls, though they are written differently, when pronounced they sound the same. Okay, so Shakespeare they sound the same. Okay, so Shakespeare word play here is laden with a subtle sense of humor. Okay, subtle sense of humor, a subtle sense of humor, which will subtle sense of humor. And what will this humor do? This will make the reader or the audience smile. Now you see that the whole atmosphere of the play is very tense. So Shakespeare uses this a slight amount of subtle humor to ease the audience into play. The people who are coming, those who have just sat down, to watch the play, they will just ease into the play because the whole atmosphere is very, very gloomy, very dark, very tense. Second citizen, nay, I beseech you, sir, be now not out with me yet. If you be out, sir, I can mend you. Morulus, what meanest thou by that? Mend me, thou no saucy fellow. Second citizen, why, sir, cobble you? Morulus becomes more angry with him and tells him not to act like a fool and you know uh, tell him about his profession directly. What his profession was, he calls him naughty, knave, and fool. The cobbler, the cobbler continues in his own way. He tells him respectfully not to get angry, and if his souls were worn out, he could mend them. Morulus gets more angry when he continues in this way and doesn't answer the question directly. And he says, "What did he mean by mending him?" He said that, "Yes, why, sir? I would cobble you." He said that he meant that he could cobble him. Flavius, thou art a cobbler, art thou? Now, Flavius comes in between and says that, okay, that means that you are a cobbler. That is what he says. It means you could cobble. That means you are a cobbler. Second citizen, truly, sir, all that I live by is with all I meddle with no tradesman's matter, not woman's matter, but withal I am indeed, sir, a surgeon to old shoes. When they are in great danger, I recover them. As proper men as ever trod upon needs leather have gone upon my handiwork. Second citizen continues not answering straight. He continues in his own way. He said that he earns he earns his living through the use of an all. No wrongdoing for him, no political indulgences. He meant to say that he was a simpleton. He could cobble things. He said that he performed surgery of the shoes when they were old and worn out. And he said that the most of the noblemen, and he said that most of the noblemen of Rome uses his cobbled shoes. So that's it, children. I hope you have understood the things well. That's it for today's session. I hope you like the video. If you have any doubts, you can post it in the comment section. Keep liking and keep watching my channel. And thank you for watching my video.